Hello, welcome to my channel, Crafty Fox DIYs. This video is part of the What Would You Make Challenge for May 2025. The hosts of the What Would You Make Challenge are Brenda from Rustic and Lace DIY and Christine from Divine Designs. This month's guest host is Katie from Lady Red Crafting. In the description box, I will have links to their channels. I will also have a link to the playlist so that you can get all kinds of What Would You Make Challenge inspiration. Okay, let's get into it. For this first DIY, I have this cross stitch pattern that was done by somebody, and then I have this frame. I don't like the color of the frame. It's sort of a tarnished gold color, and that just doesn't work well in my home. So what I'm doing is just taking some white paint and I mix a little bit of brown into it so that it's sort of like a tan color, and I'm just putting it on the frame, and then I'm taking a rag and just wiping some of that back. And then I'm taking another color. This is a brown color that has sort of a red tint to it, and this will work well in my home. Plus it will match the cross stitch pattern really well. So I'm just putting a little bit of that on there so that way it just kind of, dresses it up a little bit. And I just kept going on it with both of those colors until I got it to look how I wanted it to. Now this is the cardboard from the frame. The pattern isn't exactly square, it's sort of at an angle, so I'm cutting the pattern down so that it will fit onto my piece of cardboard. I've already cut the other side, but it was off camera, so I just cut that part out. And so now I'm cutting this. As you can see, I'm getting into part of the pattern there, part of the cross stitch part, because like I said, it wasn't straight, it was at an angle. And now I'm just going to use some hot glue, and I'm going to hot glue the pattern onto the cardboard, but I'm just using the parts that was hanging over. I'm not using any of the part that had the thread on it. I'm just going to fold it up there, and I'm going to do this on both the bottom and the top of my pattern. I cut it completely even on the sides so there wasn't anything to fold over and glue down, but that's okay because it'll fit into the frame perfectly and I won't need to worry about that anyway. Now I'm taking my frame, I'm just going to turn it upside down, and then I'm going to put the picture in there and just make sure all of my tabs are up and out of the way, and that I have it turned the right direction so that I don't put it in upside down. And there's a reason for this, is because I'm showing you here there's holes in there where a hook was, and it's no longer there, but the other one is on the side. You know how you can either hang it vertical or horizontal. So I'm taking the hook off that is on there, and then I'm going to put it into where those holes are. So that way it'd be easier, to pound it in. The holes are already there. I don't know, that's just what I thought would be easier. So that's what I'm doing there. Just moved it over, just use the pliers, pull it out, and then use my little hammer to tack it in. And now at the top of it, there is a little bit of space where you can see the material that they do this cross stitch on. So I'm just using some greenery and some flowers to cover that part up. Plus it dresses it up some. So I just went through all my flowers and found some greenery and some flowers that I thought would look good, would match. It's a little truck. It says flower market on it and has some flowers on it. Or country flowers, I believe is what it says. Anyway, it's really pretty. I loved it. Like I said, someone else had done it and it was given to me, and has a copyright of 1976 on it. So I made sure that part was left on there too, just as kind of a remembrance. That, and now I'm, like I said, just gluing on the flowers and the greenery, and I just keep adding more until it looks good, how I like for it to look. I wanted something a little fuller than I usually do. I usually am pretty slim on my greenery and my flowers, but I wanted to make it a little fuller, so I'm just adding more and more in, and just keep doing that, adding different flowers and adding more greenery. Now I'm just adding some more. I had the greenery and the flowers that I'm using, I'm pretty sure everything came from Dollar Tree. That's usually where I get my stuff. Every once in a while, I'll get something at Walmart. My Dollar General usually has nothing. I don't even know if they carry flowers. I've never seen any in there. So, okay, here I am putting the flowers on, and I need to add in a little more greenery, so I'm adding some leaves in spots where I thought that it was a little bare and it could use a little more, because like I said, I wanted this to be a little fuller than how I usually make my things that I put flowers on. So I'm going to glue that on there, and that's how it looks finished. All right. Okay, now for the second DIY, I have this oar. It's part of an oar. Actually, I've had this a really long time. My kids are grown and their children are starting in school. And I got this, we were fishing when my children were still in grade school. So like I said, I've had it a really long time, and I've never really done anything with it other than like setting it in a basket. I had like a little fishing basket, and I would put it in there just to decorate with. But then I ended up getting this skeleton mermaid, and her poor little arms are broken off at the elbows. But I didn't want her to just be thrown away because I just love her and wanted to use her. She's perfect for my downstairs bathroom. And so I thought I will pair her with this oar. I'm finally going to really do something with it. And I also had these bones from Halloween I got from Dollar Tree. And I thought I can put those on there. Now, they're not a perfect fit or anything, but it just make it less obvious that her arms are broken off. So I just very easily snapped those bones into. These are the larger ones. They have smaller ones and larger ones in the same pack together, and these were the larger ones, and they seem to work the best. So I just put half of 2 different bones on each arm. Okay, now I have my oar, and I've decided to use the lighter color, the lighter side. The other side was a little darker, but I'm using the lighter side. And then I have this fishing net. It's just a decorative fishing net. And I think that you can get these sometimes at Dollar Tree. They may be colored, but you could always paint it. It'd be very simple to do. And so I'm just going to use my staple gun to attach it to the oar. I'm just putting a couple staples in, and then whenever I turn it back around to the front, I'm not going to just pull it straight across. I'm kind of going to give it a twist. And it's kind of hard to see, but you'll see here in a second what I do. See, I kind of twisted it there. Also, I didn't use the whole net. I just cut a piece of it off about twice the length of, or the width of what my oar is. Maybe just a little bit more than twice the width, but about that. And then I stapled the other side to the oar as well. Now I'm going to just use some hot glue to attach my skeleton mermaid. I cut the string off. She had a little string coming out of her head to hang her up, so I cut that off. And then, just like I said, I'm going to use some hot glue to attach her to the oar. And then just to make for sure that she stays on really well, I'll show you what else I do. The whole time I'm gluing her down, I'm trying to think, what am I going to do? Because there's just something else needed to be done just to make for sure she stays on here really well. And I didn't want to use the string or something like that. So what I decided to do was just cut a piece of the net, just like if I was cutting, ribbon, a piece of material or something. And then I'm just going to put that right around her spine. And then I'm going to attach it on the back side using the staple gun. So what I'm doing first, though, I'm going to thread it through the net instead of having the whole net be attached up with that little piece I cut there. So I'm doing it through the net. So that will be the only part that goes to the back. So I can still have the net hanging down in the front, if that makes any sense. You'll see the final product, how it looks. So then I get that around there and then staple it down, and then I'm just going to do the same thing with the top. I'm going to thread it through and then staple it down. So there I go, doing the top part. Okay, now I have these glass rocks. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. They're great vase fillers, and they come in different colors. I have some larger blue ones and then some smaller green ones and white or clear ones, and I'm gluing those in, places on the oar just to help add a little pop of color in there. I do little groupings, blue, green, and clear together, and 3 different places on the oar. I'm not going to show you all of it, but you'll see the final product, how it looks and where they're at. Okay, now I'm also going to add some greenery. I had this grass that I thought would be perfect for, like a water kind of theme. So I'm using those. They had little plastic things on them where you could put it on a stem to put in, like a vase or something. And I cut that part off. So these are just like little single blades of seagrass that I'm gluing in here. And I don't remember how many I glued down, but I just put in as many as I thought wasn't too much, but it was enough, to add a little, I don't know exactly the word I'm looking for here, but I'm sure you get it. You understand what I'm talking about here. Just, help go along with that, water theme that I was going for, like the ocean theme. I have mermaids and dolphins in my downstairs bathroom, so this is going to be perfect for it. Okay, so let's see. Did I get all those glued down? Yep. Now I'm gluing down a starfish. This is from Dollar Tree. They come in a pack of like 3, I think. You can get starfish or sand dollars even, but I decided to go with the starfish. And then I'm also going to take a little shell. This is a shell that me and my kids picked up from a beach somewhere when they were smaller also. I'm just gluing that to her breastbone there in the middle. And I have a piece of nautical rope. I believe this came from Dollar Tree, if I'm not mistaken. That's where I got it. If not, it would be Walmart. That I'm going to use that as a hanger on the back. And I wish I would have went ahead and stapled it on before I had the mermaid on, but that's okay. It still worked out in the end. She's on there, securely, so she didn't end up getting knocked off while I stapled this on. I put a couple staples on each side in the back, and then I turned it to the side and put staples in the front so that way it would hang more upright. And that seemed to work really well. And there she is. I absolutely love this. I think it turned out great. Okay, now I have this coffee grinder. It has been left outside and weathered. It was not mine. It was something somebody was getting rid of. The drawer was messed up on the bottom, but I wood glued it together and had an extra piece on the back there because that was completely gone. Also, the little knob where you pull the drawer out was gone, so I'm going to use this pretty bead that has this flower on it as the knob for the drawer. So I'm just going to use some hot glue and I'm going to put that on there because this isn't going to be used. It is only for decorative purposes. Now we do use whole coffee beans for our coffee. And if I was going to get a grinder, I would want one like this, but a blender works just fine. But I still like the idea of having this to sit out on my kitchen island as a decoration. I like it so much. I'd like the older style things because I don't have a lot of cabinet space anyway, so trying to get an electric grinder specifically for coffee was just kind of ridiculous since a blender works just as well. So what I'm doing, because it was weathered, I'm just taking some dark paint. I believe this is Burnt Umber by Apple Barrel. It's a really dark color, and I'm just refreshing the wood on the coffee grinder. I don't do anything with the metal parts. I leave them exactly as they are. They cleaned up nicely. There wasn't any rust or anything, so I just left it how it was, even though there is some weathering to them. They're not in really bad shape, and so I just went ahead and left those alone. Now the front part had this decoration on there, and so it was hard to paint around it, but the paint wiped off really easily. I just made sure that I didn't give it any time to dry. Now I have this material here. It's like a flour sack kind of material, and it was very, very white. So what I done was just save some coffee grounds, and after the coffee was brewed, I just saved the coffee grounds, put them in a bowl, put some water in it, and left the material soaking in it overnight. And then the next morning I took it out, and it was stained nice so that it wasn't so white. I imagine you can make it darker if you would put it back in and leave it soak longer. I'm not sure, but this was good enough for me because I just didn't want it to be that real stark white color. I wanted it to look more like a sack that you would get coffee in or coffee beans in. So I'm taking a piece of foam and I'm going to wrap the piece of foam with this material. Right now I am taking a permanent marker and I'm writing the word coffee on the front, where the front of the bag's going to be. Now I just need to glue the material to my piece of styrofoam. Now this is a piece of thick foam. It came in something that I had ordered, but you could use anything. You could use a block of wood or whatever. It wouldn't matter. Just I wanted to use something that was going to make it more full and make it stand up easier because I wanted it to stand up next to the coffee grinder. So I'm just using hot glue, and I make sure I have it on the low setting because otherwise it's going to melt this styrofoam. I'm also putting hot glue on the back. Now, whenever I go to glue the front part, I don't want there to be any glue like showing. So I'm only going to put glue at the top. I'm not going to do the whole front part of it because I don't want the glue to be easily seen. So I'm just doing that. And then I'm going to do the rest of it, kind of just like how you would wrap a package, is how I'm going to glue the sides. And I'm going to make sure that the part that folds over last is coming from the front to the back. That way no seams will be seen from the front. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. And then, like I said, once again, I make sure that whenever the last part I'm going to glue down is going to be the part that's going to go from front to back. So you won't see the seam, like I said, from the front. Okay, let's glue that over. I'm going to glue the top parts of the material together to finish off the bag. I'm going to do this on both sides. And now I've noticed that I didn't have my styrofoam cut just perfectly even, so it's sitting back. Like the back is lower than the front. So now I'm folding down the top edge of the bag, so it's kind of like folded over, you know, like a cuff. And then I'm just tacking it down with some glue. Now I'm going to take my that dark brown paint that I have, and I'm going to paint the top of the foam. Then once it's dry, I'm going to, I'm going to glue some little beads on here. That way it'll set level. And that worked out just perfectly. It's just some little, actually they were balls. I'm not even sure they're beads. I don't even know where they came from, but they work great for this. Just put some little feet on the back there and it straightened it right up. And I just put hot glue all on top of that brown paint. And then I'm using some coffee beans to glue on the top of there, and it'll look like it's a whole bag of coffee beans. These are real coffee beans. You can get resin coffee beans. You can order them from like Amazon and stuff, but we already have coffee beans, and it didn't take a whole lot, so I just used those. Painting the top of that styrofoam dark brown, same color as the beans, helped out a whole lot with that. And I'm just filling in some spots where the beads didn't stay in. Okay, now I have this ribbon. I got this from Dollar Tree. It's like a light beige color, and it has cotton on it. And I'm trying to figure out how I want to add a little decoration to it. I want it to be just plain. And that tying that bow like that wasn't working for me, so I decided to make a little bow. Now I'm making the tails for the bow here. And then I'm going to glue the tails and the little bow part, the loop part, onto my coffee bag. So there, I'm going to glue that on, and then I just have some flowers, and these flowers match the little flowers that is on the bead that I use for the drawer pull, the little knob on the drawer for the coffee grinder. So I'm just going to glue those on as well, and then I add a little leaf. These flowers were on a basket that I have that I've been pulling flowers off of for years. Okay, and there we have those. Okay, let's take one final. That's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.